Presented by Cursed by the Witch. Warning, use headphones before listening to horror podcast story.
The Room That Devours follows the story of Ethan Clark, an architect fascinated by old buildings with dark histories. When he inherits the decaying mansion of his estranged uncle, Arthur Blackwell, he sees it as an opportunity to fulfill his lifelong dream of restoring an estate steeped in mystery. Known as Blackwell Manor, the house has stood abandoned for years, notorious for its chilling legend, The Room That Devours. Part 1. The Inheritance and the Mystery of Blackwell Manor. Ethan arrives at Blackwell Manor with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The mansion looms over him, covered in ivy and shadowed by gnarled trees that seem to twist toward it as if drawn by some sinister force. Local tales describe a devouring room, a place within the house where those who enter mysteriously vanish without a trace, leaving nothing but whispers of horror behind. Most who live nearby refuse to speak of it, but Ethan is enthralled by the idea and dismisses the stories as nothing more than folklore. As he explores the manor, Ethan notices something peculiar. There are exactly 99 rooms listed in his uncle's documents, yet the layout suggests a hidden, 100th room. Convinced this room holds the key to the house's legend, Ethan grows obsessed with finding it. His curiosity begins to gnaw at him, and he begins poring over old maps, journals, and drawings his uncle left behind. Part 2. The First Signs of Darkness. Strange occurrences begin as soon as Ethan starts his renovation work. Doors slam shut on their own, and he hears faint whispers in the hallways, always seeming to beckon him deeper into the house. At night, he dreams of dark corridors and faint, ghostly figures standing silently in shadowed corners, their faces obscured. He begins to notice dark stains on the walls, marks that seem like claw marks or faint handprints, which appear and vanish without explanation. The more Ethan searches for the hidden room, the more his nights are plagued by nightmares. He dreams of his uncle Arthur, standing in a room bathed in shadow, his eyes hollow and his face twisted in an expression of pure terror. In his dreams, Arthur warns him, "Once it finds you, it never lets go." Ethan wakes each morning drenched in sweat, yet he feels a strange compulsion to continue his search, as though the house itself is luring him closer. Part 3. Discovery of the Devouring Room. One night, while poring over architectural plans in the candlelit library, Ethan notices a strange, unmarked doorway hidden within the floor plans. As he traces his finger along the faint lines, a chill runs down his spine, and he feels a sudden urge to find the spot indicated on the map. Following the blueprint, he finds himself in an empty corridor at the farthest corner of the manor. He runs his hand along the wall until he feels a small, invisible latch. With a deep breath, he pulls, and a hidden door creaks open, revealing the fabled room that devours. The air is cold, damp, and stale, with a heavy sense of dread hanging over it. The room itself is dimly lit by a single, flickering bulb, casting long shadows over strange symbols etched into the walls and floor. As Ethan steps inside, the door slams shut behind him, and he feels an intense pressure weighing down on him. Shadows in the room seem to twist and writhe, taking on grotesque, almost human shapes that slither across the walls and ceiling. He hears whispers, screams, really, muffled as though coming from a great distance, pleading for help. Each second he spends in the room feels like hours, his sense of time and reality beginning to distort. Part 4. The Room's Horrific Hunger. The door opens suddenly, allowing Ethan to escape, but the experience leaves him shaken. He begins to lose track of time, spending hours sitting in silence, his mind haunted by images of the room. Driven by a growing compulsion, he feels an overpowering urge to return, each time convinced he'll find something different or break the room's curse. The room's presence begins to follow him, and he starts to see shadows in every corner, hear faint whispers wherever he goes. Neighbors and workers who come to the manor warn him about the room, telling tales of his uncle's obsessive visits to the same cursed chamber. Ethan learns that Arthur had lost himself to it as well, but the manor's secrets had driven him to madness, his final days spent locked away, convinced that the room was watching, waiting, and hungering. Soon after, Ethan begins finding skeletal remains and old, rotted belongings scattered around the room during his visits, objects that don't appear when he looks again, as though the room itself is playing tricks on him. Each encounter leaves him weaker, his body and spirit drained, and he realizes the truth: the room doesn't merely house spirits, it devours the souls of those who enter, feeding off their fear and desperation. Part 5. The Room's Ultimate Trap. Convinced he must end the room's curse, Ethan discovers his uncle's old diary, which describes a ritual that might seal the room forever. The instructions detail an ancient rite, requiring the blood of the person who would stand against the hunger of the cursed room. With mounting dread but feeling he has no choice, Ethan decides to perform the ritual, hoping it will free him and end the curse for good. Ethan steps into the room one last time, holding a candle and the ingredients for the ritual. As he chants the incantation, the shadows converge, taking on a tangible, monstrous form that surrounds him, echoing with the cries of past victims trapped within. Just as he completes the ritual, the door slams shut, and he feels the icy hands of the devouring room closing in around him. In a horrific twist, Ethan realizes that the ritual was never meant to close the door, it was a trap designed by the room itself to ensnare him further. He hears his uncle's voice laughing, echoing in the darkness, and feels himself slowly being absorbed, becoming part of the shadows that roam the cursed chamber. Ethan understands, too late, that the room's true purpose is to collect the souls of those who seek to escape it, feeding on their despair and binding them to its walls for eternity. Epilogue. The room waits for the next victim. Days later, the townsfolk notice that the manor has gone silent. The renovation crew finds no sign of Ethan, his belongings strewn about as if he had simply vanished. Whispers begin anew about Blackwell Manor and the Room That Devours. The townspeople leave it untouched, its windows dark, and its doors sealed. And yet, at night, a faint flickering light is sometimes seen from within, and those who venture too close to the manor report hearing Ethan's voice, trapped within the room, calling out, warning them away from the hungry silence that lies within. The house waits patiently for the next unwary soul to step inside, ready to feed again on a fresh, unsuspecting spirit.
Thank you for watching. Just like and subscribe.